Kelsi likes.
Say my name.
Kelsi likes. It isn't just an anagram, it's my live show where I will discuss everything that I love with you. I'll give you interesting facts and tidbits, ask for your opinions and favorites, and give you mine on a multitude of topics like pop culture, movies, 90s culture, TV shows, books, nerdy topics that I love, and more. And I'll end every show with recommendations of books, articles, videos, documentaries, and other materials that will add insight or give extra information on whatever topic we're discussing. It's about to start, Gut Buckets, so hold on to your butts. May the force be with you. I'll be back, and get ready to engage. Hey guys, thanks for joining me. It's Kelsi, your host of Kelsi Explains It All. And just a reminder that today we're doing a planned stream, and today is one of many streams in the Kelsi Likes 90s Family Movie series that we're doing. So it's a series I do called Kelsi Likes, kind of examining all the things that I like, because I'm Kelsi and I like a lot of things. Anyway, this is like the 90s family movie version of that series, and there's been a lot of videos we've done. If you guys are longtime viewers of mine, you saw me do my top 10 favorite 90s family movies list, like a countdown list, and then you guys also, if you've been longtime viewers, also saw me do my 64 movie 90s family movie poll, where we basically went through 64 family movies and we whittled it down and looked at all these Twitter polls and saw which one people voted as the greatest 90s family movie. I'll give you two spoilers. One, the movie Blank Check, which we're talking about today, one of the 90s family movie staples, I believe, that most 90s kids watched at some time or another in their childhood growing up. And so I think it's a really cool thing to talk about it, but here's the spoiler. So in my top 10, Blank Check, the movie we're talking about today, did make it in my top 10. So if you want to see that whole video where I revealed my top 10, and if you want to find out where Blank Check fell into my top 10 of 90s family movies, then you can go to my YouTube channel, Super Kickin' It with Kelsi, because it had to make my list. I have seen this movie like zillions of times. And yeah, we'll talk about some of the controversial stuff, because there are some things that people are like, no, we don't like this part. That's fine, whatevs. There is nostalgia to it, though, and that's what we're going to concentrate on. Also, I have some very funny observations about the movie, and it's going to be a blast just going through kind of the things that I wrote down after watching it for like the billionth time. So I watched it last year because I thought I was going to do this a long time ago. Then I wound up taking a huge hiatus from making content. So a whole year went by. I kind of forgot. I mean, I didn't forget the movie, but I had all these notes and I was like, oh, my notes don't fully make sense to me. So I watched it again today to be completely fresh. I kind of rewrote some of my notes, expanded on some of the notes that I had taken last year. So it's all fresh, it's all here in my mind. I think you could still laugh even if you haven't seen the movie. You could still appreciate and laugh at some of the observations for sure. Alright, so before we get started, let me show you guys again. This is a part of, like I told you guys, this is a part of the Kelsi Likes 90s Family Movie, as you can see on my little title page. Some of the other movies we had discussed in the previous streams, we kind of mentioned quickly: a Goofy Movie, Home Alone, Heavyweights, Mrs. Doubtfire. Lots of movies we're talking about, especially in that one stream where I did a whole 64 movie poll reveal, and we revealed the winner of the poll and which movie made it to the finals and which movie wound up on top. But all these movies here that you see were mentioned, as was Blank Check. And again, you'll have to go and find that video. It's a separate video than my top 10. You'll have to find that other video, the 64 movie poll video, to see where Blank Check got eliminated, because I will spoil it. I don't think it made the final round. That's just a quick spoiler. There are a lot of movies that I actually was surprised didn't make it towards the final round, which I was kind of bummed about. But anyway, this has been a long-going series, and it will continue, because we'll do a lot more movie reviews than just Blank Check. And I gotta say, though, the cool thing is Blank Check is our first full movie review. We've done a couple of other streams that are just general, like the top 10 list, the poll list. All of that stuff was kind of general, where we talked about multi-movies, not just one. But today, we're talking about exclusively Blank Check. So that's kind of cool. I think Blank Check has a little special spot here because it's the first movie I'm reviewing as a standalone. So that's a big deal, kinda. It's gonna be fun. I'm excited about it. And let's take a look at this movie poster here. The poster of Blank Check. And again, it's kind of cool. You could see the check behind Preston here. This is the kid you see is Preston, the main character. And it's a Disney movie. So this movie was released in 1994, just to give you a little backstory. And we have talked about this before. If you guys have been with me for a while, you've heard me say 90s family movies are notorious for getting low ratings on movie rating websites. That is no surprise. It's not unusual. It's not exclusive to Blank Check. This is something that is just very common with almost all 90s family movies. There are some exceptions, like Mrs. Doubtfire has a higher rating. I'm trying to think of another one. Of course, Home Alone has a higher rating, but movies like, I'm trying to think of a good example that will shock you guys, but like Hook, terrible ratings overall. It more is beloved by people who grew up watching it. It wasn't really made to please the critics, let's say. So in that way, Blank Check is kind of very similar to all those other movies, and it doesn't stand out because a lot of these movies, they just have low ratings. So in terms of Blank Check, it got 9% on Rotten Tomatoes. Very, very low. It's gotten a 42% rating on Metacritic and a 5.3 out of 10 on IMDb. Again, don't be shocked by these numbers. This is a usual thing. Lots of great movies we all love. Movies that we just adore, like a Goofy movie even, not very high of ratings. It's just the way it is. But I will say, kind of giving you a better perspective of how many people like it despite the ratings, on Google, it says that 74% of Google users say that they like the movie. So there you go. So although the low ratings by the critics, it's obviously quite favored by users, by regular people like you and me. So it is what it is, and I just don't know why. Obviously, these family movies are not Oscar-type movies. You know, that's why they get low ratings. Other than that, I guess people watching and giving the ratings, they don't put themselves into a family mindset where, oh, if I was watching this with my family, how would I feel? Or if I was back being a kid, how would I look at this movie? So, you know, they're very harsh, and yeah, Neil says the critics clearly don't like fun. Yeah, I know. So I don't know the reasoning behind that, but it doesn't surprise me. Oh my god, and Kat has a funny observation actually. She says, so Blank Check has such a low rating, it's actually lower rated than the movie we watched. So as you guys know, Kat and I had our Christmas horror movie marathon. And one of the movies that I attempted to watch but failed, and she actually did watch, unfortunately for her, was a movie called Saint, which is actually on a lot of top Christmas horror lists. Like if you look up best horror movies to watch for Christmas, Saint is on a lot of these lists, and we can't imagine why. But Saint has a higher rating on a lot of these sites than Blank Check, and then it actually has a higher rating than some movies I'm surprised about. But yeah, I don't know how Saint has a decent rating at all, because I watched like 15 minutes, I was like, oh my god, it's terrible. If you want to hear more about that, again, not to plug my YouTube again, but me and Kat's chat, it's our Christmas horror movie chat, and we discuss Saint on there, and it's pretty funny. We had a good time about that. So yeah, to see Kat's specific thoughts on the movie and my little quibs about the movie, go check it out on YouTube again. And Kat says, yeah, it's kind of sad that Saint's got a higher rating than Blank Check. Yeah, it is, because I'm pretty sure more people adore Blank Check versus flippin' Saint. And if you guys have ever seen Saint, I think you know what I'm talking about. And I'm right, trust me, I'm not pulling your leg or anything. I'm not exaggerating how bad Saint is. And Kat saw the whole movie, so she can reiterate that as well. So Preston is played by Brian, and I'm going to pronounce his name wrong, of course, because I'm terrible at pronunciation, you guys know, but his last name is spelled Bonsall, and the cool thing is, I found out he actually played, if you guys know, I love Star Trek The Next Generation, and one of my favorite characters is the character of Worf, and actually, Brian, who plays the main character in Blank Check, Preston, he also played Worf's son, Alexander, in a couple of seasons of Star Trek The Next Generation, which is pretty damn cool, if you ask me, because, I don't know. One, a lot of people don't like the whole Worf having a son thing. I actually love those episodes. In fact, one of my favorite episodes is where Worf's son is bonding with Deanna Troy's mother, and they're, like, hanging out together, and it's just really a feel-good episode. And there's a couple great Alexander, which is the name of Worf's son. There's a couple great Alexander episodes, so trust me, it's really cool that this actor was in both Blank Check and in Star Trek The Next Generation. And just to kind of be thematic today, since I knew I was going to mention TNG, I am wearing a Picard shirt. So it says tea, Earl Grey, hot. Can't really see it good. Anyway, there it is. So I had to wear my Star Trek shirt today to be a little bit thematic. Even though it's not blank check, it still has to do with what we're talking about. A little bit, at least. But I do want to mention one thing that we have to get out of the way. It's like one of my biggest negatives about the movie. And I'm sure you guys know what I'm talking about if you've seen the movie. We have to talk about the kiss between... like a kid and a 30-year-old woman. It's like so wrong. She's the love interest in the movie, yet she's super grown, and it's like the one big negative we have to discuss and get out of the way. Yes, it's weird. Yes, it's creepy, but I honestly still love the movie. It still made my top 10 90s family movie list, as I said earlier, and yeah, I can't really, I mean, it's gross, it's terrible that they put that in there. Like, why? Like, leave the kiss out. It's so weird. Like, it's extremely strange. But, you know, if you look past that, I still really love and laugh at a lot of parts of the movie. So to me, it doesn't ruin the movie, even though it is weird, but, like, whatever. I mean, it would never fly today. That's the thing. It would never fly today in today's environment and in society. There's just no way. People would, like, destroy it. It would be banned and canceled and all this stuff, but... I guess for the 90s it worked. There was a lot of weird stuff in the 90s, if you guys remember. This wasn't the worst thing in the world, but yeah, looking back on it now, it is a little like, ugh. But I have to mention that just to get it out of the way, to be like, okay, yeah, like, I admit that this is weird and it exists, but it is what it is, and we are going to go past that because there are still a lot of great things in the movie. If I can get to my slideshow, I could show you the kiss in question, because I did get a gif of it. Yeah, as you can see, it really happens in the movie. This is it right here. It's a little strange, but once we get that out of the way, it's fine. No biggie, you know, it's over. It is weird, we acknowledge it, we say, okay, shouldn't have happened in the movie, whatevs. But now that we've acknowledged it, we can move past it and talk about other great parts of the movie. So, it is what it is, it's, yeah, controversial, not good. But now, we can go into it. So here we go. So, the movie opens up, this bank robber guy... We assume he's broken out of prison. He's going into this abandoned building. I don't know how he knows it would still be abandoned after he broke out of prison, but apparently he's hidden money in the floor. He has like a welding torch with him randomly. If he did escape from prison, I don't know where he hid his tools, but obviously he got some tools and was able to dig up this money. Well, he gets the money out, and he's by himself, and yet he's talking out loud to the money, and he's like, first he kisses it, and there's like a audible mwah, that's very disturbing and weird. He goes, mwah, did you miss me, beautiful? Like, creepo. I don't know, it's just like over-the-top villain, just way too much. But I love it, and I always laugh at this part, because why does he mwah the money? Anyway, here it is. I've got an example of the kiss in question. This is a different kiss, not the kid and the lady, but a man and his money. Here we go. I don't like the mwah at all. Like, it's too much. It's much too much. Like, a little hardcore there. But it always makes me laugh. So, in that way, I do like it, actually. In the way that it makes me giggle. Alright, so yeah, the bad guy gets the money. So that's kind of the premise of the movie. This money will come into play later. Alright, and then we meet Preston and Preston's family. And just to give you guys a spoiler, if you haven't seen the movie, Preston's family is the flippin' worst. They're so mean, and they're so harsh, really. Not mean, I guess they're trying to teach him life lessons, but they just don't let him have fun. They're always talking about jobs and money and whatever. It's no wonder Preston eventually becomes obsessed with having his own money, because apparently that is very important in his family and is rewarded. Jobs and money and etc., then whoever has them in the family gets treated better. And we'll talk about that as it goes. But so his brothers are basically moving into Preston's room. That's what we kind of see as the opening of the family, the introduction of the family. And the brothers are able to move into his room because they started their own business called Hand and Foot. That's neither here nor there. What the hell is Hand and Foot? I don't know. They never say what it really is, what the business does. But the dad's all happy about it. And he's letting the brothers use Preston's room because, oh, they're starting their own business. They're great. They're doing what they're supposed to do. You should learn something from them, Preston. Meanwhile, behind their dad's back, the brothers steal Preston's, like, jar of money, life savings. It's not a lot, but it's all of his money. And they said, don't tell Dad or we'll kill ya. But, you know, if Preston did tell his dad and his parents, they would have been like, what the hell? You're in trouble. Get out of Preston's room. You're no longer allowed. You can't steal money from your brother. Like, come on. So I feel like just them saying, oh, we're gonna beat you up to Preston wasn't enough to stop Preston from being able to tell his mom and dad that they just stole his freaking money. But no, Preston says nothing. So Preston's kind of laid back, a little too laid back. He should have stood up for himself against his family, but to be fair, his family, they're pretty harsh. I just don't know. But maybe he didn't say anything to them because, like I said earlier, they're literally the worst. So Preston doesn't want to deal with it. He just keeps his mouth shut, I suppose. So the mom in the movie, Preston's mom, she is played by a actress named Jane Atkinson, and she also plays, you guys know I have to mention it, get the emote ready, she plays the mom or the foster mom in Free Willy. And you guys know how much I love Free Willy, one of my other favorite 90s family movies, and it's kind of cool to see her here. I gotta say though, in Free Willy, she's super amazing and nice. She's not she doesn't really have a huge role in Blank Check because she doesn't have a lot of speaking parts, but I would say she's definitely not as nice of a parent figure in Blank Check as she is in Free Willy. So, I don't know, compare that how you will, but that's at least my thoughts there. So, Preston also, he's in the room when his dad basically brings in this brand new computer that he bought for Preston's brothers because they started this new business. So all of a sudden, because the brothers started the business, they get to move into Preston's room. They get a brand new computer. What the hell? And Preston's really not happy about this. Not to mention, Preston's birthday, we learn, is coming up soon. So all this is happening around Preston's birthday. Kind of a bummer. But at least he gets to kind of play on the computer, it seems, because he is on it quite a few times during the movie, this new computer that the dad apparently gets for the brothers, not for Preston. But anyway, Preston seems to be a whiz on this computer because the dad says, why don't you teach your brothers how to use it? And he's like, yeah, right, I'm not able to teach them anything. Within a second of turning the computer on, by the way, Preston is able to open up a voice program and figure out how to make the computer talk and say things that he wants it to say. So he opens up this program in a friggin' second flat, and he makes the computer say, when the dad leaves the room, by the way, so Preston's brothers' names are Damien and Ralph. So he makes the computer say, Damien and Ralph sleep butt to face, butt to face, butt to face. It's obviously coming from the computer, and yet this is one of my favorite observations in the movie. One of the brothers literally says out loud, huh? Who said that? Like there's some invisible person in the room saying Damien and Ralph sleep butt to face. Like, don't you know that it's the computer? You hear it for a second, and you've got to know it's coming from the computer. But he literally says, huh? Who said that? That always makes me laugh. Like, why is he saying that out loud? Like, you obviously know your brother just punched it into the computer. They get so mad. They're like, stop it, delete it, stop, pause it. Like, the whole idea of sleeping butt to face apparently is really bad to them and very embarrassing. And even between their brothers, they're, screaming to stop the playing of this recording. I just don't understand, beat up his brother or something, which they kind of do, but why are they so offended at the sleeping butt to face thing? I don't know, but they're very perturbed that Preston made the computer say this. So that was a great part of the movie that I always laugh at. It's so dumb. Alright, so then we kind of go from Preston's home and family, and then the next scene, Preston's going to a birthday party to one of his friends. I say friends. It's really a terrible kid. That Preston obviously doesn't want to go to this party, but you hear his parents saying, you gotta go, you gotta get out of the house. The friend, quote, friend is a kid named Butch. Well, guess what? Butch is a dick. He's not nice at all. He makes fun of Preston in front of the other kids. Preston doesn't have enough money to do anything. That's a big theme. Preston wants more money because he doesn't have money to do anything. He would have had money if his flippin' brothers hadn't also been dicks and stole his money. And if he had only told his parents what happened, then maybe his parents would have been like, yeah, let me give you some more money for the amusement park. But no. Anyway, this is analyzing the movie from an adult mind. And again, I am not bashing the movie because I actually love it. These are just funny little things that as an adult, when you look back, you think well, why didn't he say something he just was okay with going to the amusement park with literally no money? All he had to do was tell his dad, I have savings. Damien and Ralph friggin' stole it. Give me some money, Dad. But anyway, that wouldn't work for the plot. This is adult stuff, adult mind, trying to make sense of a movie for kids. But still, nonetheless, it is funny, the whole brother and Preston interactions and stuff. But yeah, in terms of Butch, he's a jerk. I don't understand why all the kids at this party seem to hate and make fun of Preston so much. Maybe because he's a little bit nerdy, maybe because he knows about computers, I don't know, but everyone at this birthday party, this kid's Butch's birthday party, everyone's being mean to poor Preston, and he really can't do anything. He doesn't have enough money to go on good rides, and so it's a really terrible time for him. And I do sympathize with Preston for having such a bad time, and like no kid wants to be that ostracized kid who can't participate in anything. So unfortunately, that kid is Preston in this situation. So he comes home, has dinner with his parents, and he's in a really nasty mood, saying he wants to live by himself, he wants to have money. And then they talk about his birthday coming up, and he gets an early birthday present, which is a card from his grandma. I will say, I do sympathize with Preston, like I said, but Preston was kind of a jerk and kind of selfish because he rips open the card from his grandma, throws the card away, and just looks for the money that he knows she sent. I don't know, that kind of tells you right there he's being a little bit greedy, but can we really blame him when his family is pushing job, money, money, all up in his face? I don't think so. It's not just, Preston's fault. Nature and nurture, you know what they say, whatever, it's this whole big thing. Anyway, it's no wonder that he's so greedy. His family is like pushing this whole mentality, obviously. He just is a real brat about it, though, in this particular scene, which I don't like. So you're kind of sympathetic for him, but then throughout the movie, he kind of, is not as sympathetic as time goes on, and we'll discuss that. Good Guy Dave says, lots of parents in the 90s were the worst because they let their kids do whatever they wanted. But in this case, they didn't let Preston do anything, so they were the worst in a different way, in a more harsh way. And Nail says it's weird to hear me call somebody a dick. Well, it's got to be said, because this kid was just so mean. Alright, so like we established, Butch is a dick, Preston's being a brat, whatevs. Then we go and we see Preston later is sitting at the computer, again, which supposedly isn't his, but he's still using it quite a bit, I gotta say. Whatever, that's neither here nor there. But what I will say is, he's making a list, like a to-do list or like a wish list, I guess, for his birthday. And one of the things on the list, which is kind of a little ridiculous, his first thing on the list says, knock off Damien and Ralph. So that means, I assume that means he wants to kill them. He wants them to be, murdered. That's a big life goal for him. And to me, that's pretty damn hardcore. You want to, off your brothers, man? That's kind of extreme. Anyway, I don't blame him, though, in a way. Kids aren't really going to kill anybody. He just is, doesn't want to deal with his brothers. And they are really mean to him, so I can't really fault him for that. His brothers are pretty damn mean. So, fast forward a little bit. Preston wants to take the check from his grandma, which was actually a blank check at first, but the dad made it out to only be $11. So the dad was explaining what a blank check was and decided to give Preston $11 flippin' dollars. And Preston then proceeds to use the computer to try to calculate how long it will take him to make $1 million off of this $11 with interest and stuff. And apparently it's going to take him 300,000 years, apparently. That's what his computer tells him. So he's got all these sophisticated, math and banking programs on his computer somehow. I don't know. This computer, I guess, came souped up with all these programs ahead of time. I don't know. But it is kind of funny. So, after that, after he understands about blank checks, he decides to go and cash this, or to try to deposit this check at the bank the next day, which, again, is only for $11. So, that brings us to the bank. He goes to the bank, he meets Shea, who basically is his crush. The woman we see him kissing at the end, this is where he meets the woman, and it's his big crush. And yeah, we don't really know why he's so obsessed with her right away, but he automatically just falls in love with her, essentially. Right away. So, he goes there, and he tries to open a bank account, but they're like, no, sorry, it's $200. You can't just deposit 11 and open a bank account. And he's like, oh, man, that sucks, whatever. So Shay's like, come back and see me. And he's all love-struck and stuff. So, on the way out of the bank, of course, he sees this dick Butch again, this terrible kid, and Butch takes the check out of his hand and is biking away with it. So Preston has to chase Butch on his bike to try to get his check back. So everyone's robbing poor Preston. Everyone wants Preston's money. No wonder he's so obsessed with money. Everyone's trying to take his money. And that's all they keep talking about. So as this chase scene is happening, we're going back to the bank robber, who's now, in his car. By the way, let me do back up. So the bank robber has come to the bank, talked to the bank owner, and basically we find out that he's going to try to take his $1 million, which he unburied from below the abandoned warehouse, and he wants to try to clean it through the bank because he has this relationship with the head of the bank, Biederman. Apparently, they were kind of into embezzling together before. So Quigley, the bad guy, the main bad guy, the robber, he goes back to the bank, talks to Biederman, the head of the bank, and says, okay, we're going to make this work. I'm going to come back tomorrow. My guy, Juice, is going to come here, and he's going to have a check, and you're going to cash it with clean money and give me my $1 million, like, cleaned and washed, and, you know, it'll be safe for me to use. It's all set up. Biederman's kind of intimidated. He says, okay. Gives the Quigley bad guy a basically temporary checkbook to use so that the guy who's going to come pick up the money has, like, something to write a check on. All right, so as Preston is chasing Butch, trying to get his money back, at the same time, Quigley is leaving the bank in his car. By the way, he looks in the rearview mirror of the car, and he blows himself a kiss. He goes, like, okay, what bad guy looks in his own rearview mirror and blows a kiss to himself? It's all very strange, and it's like, it's obviously very ridiculous. Maybe he learned it in over-the-top eccentric bad guys 101. I don't know, but it's, like, so ridiculous that he does that. And there I go saying ridiculous again. So yeah, he's all distracted, Quigley, the bad guy. He's in his car blowing kisses at himself. That's why he's so distracted. He backs up, even though Preston has fallen off of his bike at this point, is kind of laying right behind the car that Quigley's in, and Quigley runs over his bike and almost runs over Preston. So, of course, all these people are around. Quigley has to write a blank check. He can't finish it because he sees a police car, and he's like, give this to your dad. He'll know what to do with it to replace your bike. So basically, the idea was he's trying to buy off this kid, so it's not a big deal. He tries to, get away from the cops who seem to be lurking around by writing a blank check quickly, assuming that the kid might have the dad, write the check and buy him a new bike or something. I'm sure that's the bad guy's not even thinking it's a very rushed thing, and he's a bad guy, so he doesn't care. He just wants to get out of there clean. So basically now, the point is, Preston has a blank check signed by this criminal, and the banker guy, Biederman, is expecting a check signed by this guy for $1 million the next day from a guy named Juice, who he doesn't know who Juice is or what he looks like. So anyway, fast forward to that night. Preston's thinking alone in his room, and he's got the computer again. He's at the computer. His brothers aren't around. I don't know. He seems to be at this computer and in his room alone a lot, even though apparently he's sharing his room. So anyway, his brothers are off gallivanting, and they don't seem to be working very much, but that's neither here nor there. Their dad is obviously very wrong about the brothers being responsible, because they're obviously not. So Preston's got this genius idea. Let me use this, 90s program to forge a check. And he decides to write the check out. First he says, okay, $200. Then he's like, no, $1,000. Then he's like, no. And he's writing all this on his computer. He hasn't printed anything out yet. Then finally he decides, okay, $1 million. He types it out. And somehow this program perfectly aligns the text to print out perfectly on a check. I don't know how this program works or what kind of 90s kids program this would be. I don't know. Maybe he has banking software on this computer that his dad set up, but it's all very extensive stuff that you would think a kid would not know how to use. It's all very great and just very funny when you think about it. So he prints out $1 million check and he signs it out. Instead of his name, he puts cash. And he thinks, I'm going to get $1 million in cash if I bring this to the bank tomorrow. So kind of ridiculous. By the way, let me back up. So before he writes this check, he has to come home and explain about his bike being basically ruined. Now, Preston is being a jerk again and saying, the bike was a piece of garbage. He's basically telling his parents, the bike you gave me is a piece of garbage, which is terrible, mean, whatever. But before he even says that, the parents are PO'd at him for ruining his bike. They're like, what did we tell you about taking care of your valuables? Taking care of your valuables? Why doesn't Preston just tell him what happened? He was nearly run over, and all they care about is him taking care of his bike. One, how is it his fault? He almost got ran over. Also, the whole reason he was riding through the parking lot was because this kid stole his check. Why doesn't Preston explain this to his parents so that they're not so mean to him? Anyway, instead of explaining it, Preston's just a jerk back. Anyway, I just, that's another example of how his parents are the worst. They're literally, blasting him for the bike thing without asking, how the heck did your bike get smashed? And realizing, oh wait, our kid almost got ran over. Come on. Anyway, still awesome. Alright, so then we fast forward to the next day, after Preston, the night before, printed out the $1 million check. So all of a sudden, he's feeling good, he's got this check, but he is nervous. He goes back to the bank, and he plans on cashing this check. And so he gets up to a teller, an old lady. It's not Shea, his crush, it happens to be an old lady. And the old lady sees the check and is like, oh, we've got a practical joker here. Well, I'm going to bring you to the bank manager, Mr. Biederman, and he'll deal with you. So Mr. Biederman is in his office, and of course, he is expecting Juice with the check from Quigley at this exact time. So in comes this kid who has a check for the same amount, made to cash, signed by Quigley, the bad guy, all of which the circumstances are all lined up with what Biederman is expecting. So the kid comes in, the old lady is there, Biederman sends her off, and he looks at the check and he's like, Juice? Thinking that the kid is Juice. And the kid's like, nah, I'm not thirsty. Anyway, Juice is like one of my favorite parts of the movie when the banker, Biederman, says Juice. It's an extreme close-up of his mouth, and you could see it and it goes, Juice? Like, it's almost like he doesn't pronounce it. He's like, Juice? And I don't know, it's like he does it with a lisp. Anyway, it's not really a lisp. I used to exaggerate it with my friends. This was our favorite part of the movie where Biederman says Juice with the extreme close-up. I have a little video of it. I'll show you.
Juice. Juice.
I've got enough amusement now. Juice, even though it's Juice, but anyway, I exaggerated. That's one of my favorite parts of the whole movie. I don't know, I guess just like my group of friends and I just exaggerated some little parts over and over again, and that was one of them. So to me, I love that part. It's gold. I don't know why. Why is this such an extreme close-up on his mouth? It's like this close to his mouth, and you can see like his teeth and everything. I don't know. Anyway, why? So Preston, he's just like, no, I'm not thirsty. So meanwhile, Biederman thinks it's a joke that he says, I'm not thirsty. Very funny. So he ends up giving him $1 million in cash, thinking that he is Juice and he's coming to get Quigley's money, as if Quigley would get it from a guy, like a kid. It's ridiculous. Anyway, here I go using the word again. It's ridiculous, but it is. Because why would a kid be the guy who gets the money for this big bad guy? It doesn't make any sense. Anyway, so in the bank, Preston looks at the money, and actually you could see it's like all 10s and 20s. One, if you're getting $1 million cash, you're not going to want them in 10s and 20s. You wouldn't be able to carry it out of the place. You're going to want it in big bills. And Biederman even says, big bills? And then, sure. Like, Preston's like, sure, yeah, big bills. But as he flips through the money, it's 10s and 20s. That's not big bills. That's not going to be good enough to walk out with a backpack full. Like, he's not going to be able to do it in one backpack full. So anyway, that's neither here nor there, but someone pointed out online, there's a couple articles about this movie. People saying, when you watch it back, it's a lot of complaints about the movie, but I love it, so I'm just having these funny observations, but people are like, I rewatched Blank Check and it destroyed my childhood. I'm like, y'all are crazy. That's totally not accurate at all. You could still enjoy this movie, even with all the weird stuff, but one of the things they pointed out in one of these articles was they're 10 and 20s, and as I looked closer today when I rewatched it, I'm like, oh my god, you can see 10s and 20s. You're never gonna cash $1 million in 10s and 20s. Anyway. That's another story for another day. More analysis later, I suppose. And whenever I watch it back, I'm like, yeah, this is why I love this movie, is this scene here. And a lot of other scenes that make me laugh and smile. Those scenes, I think, stick with me and really bring back that nostalgic, warm feeling, that remembering how I felt when I watched it when I was a kid type of thing. So then we go back downstairs in the bank, and we see a guy in line. And we meet the real Juice. And of course, Juice is played by Tone Loc. Tone Loc, the rapper, who also actually was the voice of the lizard character who had a song, actually, in Ferngully. So randomly, he voiced a lizard in Ferngully, and he was in Blank Check. Two very random, very different movies, but both 90s kids movies. So that's kind of cool. Tone Loc was in two 90s kids movies. I just think that's kind of funny and really cool. So I like him. He's got a lot of style. He's very funny without even trying hard. He's a great, great character actor. I wish I would have seen him in more. I haven't seen him in anything besides those two movies, and technically I haven't seen him in Ferngully. I heard his voice, but he was good in Ferngully, and he even had a great, like I said, song as well. And so Tone Loc is trying to cash a check, and so the same old cranky lady is like, what the hell, another guy who wants to cash $1 million check? I'm gonna bring you to Mr. Biederman, and she's all confused. So by this time, Preston's leaving. Tone Loc, or aka Juice in the movie, is going upstairs to see Biederman. So they're crossing paths, and literally they do cross paths in the hallway. and Preston bumps into Juice, and they have like this whole interaction, and Preston just has this feeling like he's gonna get stopped with all this money in his backpack, so he's all kind of nervous and worried, whereas Juice is not really thinking anything's wrong, but he does say, you know you ought to be in school. And he literally says school like school, and that's another part my friends and I would always laugh at. You know you ought to be in school. In fact, we used to say that all the time. You know you ought to be in school. Like, we just used to say, you know you ought to be in school. And we would not even, like, pronounce school. We'd just say school, like S-C-O-O. Anyway, I don't know. Don't ask me why I came up with these inside jokes from back in the day, but you know you ought to be in school. I should have gone to school more, because obviously I'm coming up with jokes that nobody smart would laugh at but me, but whatever. I love that part, and that's a line that Juice says, of course, and I'm exaggerating it. He doesn't really say school. He does say school, but whatever. Who knows how it got to the way it got with me and my friends and in my mind, I don't know. But he is such a great character, Juice, and he's just got a lot of, like, kind of like pizzazz. I don't know. He's very smarmy and funny and weird and cool, and but also silly and I almost said it. Silly and absurd and over the top. So he's all these little characteristics in one. So I love Juice, the character. I think it was perfect casting to have Tone Loc play him. So I think it all worked out in the end. Wait, am I saying Tone Loc wrong again? I thought it was Locke and not Loke. Oh wait, it is Loke, you're right. We talked about this a long time ago where we were debating whether to say Tone Loc or Tone Loke, and everyone was debating. I was like, I don't know how to say it. Anyway, you guys know I'm bad at pronunciation. That's why I say skoo instead of school for this quote, but anyway. And oh yeah, he was in Ace Ventura. What am I thinking? Ace Ventura is one of my favorite movies. He was in the first Ace Ventura. But to be fair, the reason I don't remember is because Ace Ventura 2, When Nature Calls, is by far my favorite over Ace Ventura 1. I know most people wouldn't agree with me, but I don't care. I could quote Ace Ventura 2 all day long. Like, we're talking about favorite comedy movies. Ace Ventura 2 is, like, at the top of the list. I probably have seen it a billion times. But anyway, I forgot that Juice, or Tone Loc, was in Ace Ventura 1. I totally forgot about that. Yeah, he worked at the police station along with Ace Ventura, a.k.a. played by Jim Carrey. But yes, of course he is a rapper. He's not just, like, an actor guy. But yeah, so I've only seen him in 3 things. I'm going to correct myself from earlier. I saw him in Ace Ventura, because I have seen it, just been a long time. And I've seen him in, like I said, Fern Gully, and of course the movie we're talking about, Blank Check. Alright, so after Preston has his close call, Juice goes in to see Biederman, and he's like, oh, here's the money. And Biederman thinks he's joking, like, I just gave it to Juice. And he's like, I'm Juice, like, I don't know. And all this stuff ensues, and they've got a good back and forth. So anyway, basically Biederman's in deep crap because he just gave away the money that was Quigley's money to some kid. And so all this comes crumbling out, and the bad guys end up figuring out, okay, a mistake has been made. Meanwhile, Quigley thinks he's got the money, thinks Juice is going to be coming back to him with the money, and he's trying to buy this magnificent castle-looking house. So as he's trying to buy this house, he's literally with this old couple who owns the house, and is like arguing with them and being like, I'm gonna offer you $150,000, and that's my final offer, and you guys probably won't even live to enjoy it. And he's saying this all right in front of the owner. Like, why would you, if you wanted to get this place, why would you be insulting the people you're trying to buy it from when they're right there in the room? It makes no sense at all for the character. Why would he do that? I know he's a bad guy, but it just doesn't make sense for him to talk to them like that. And he's just being, like, really over-the-top bad guy, blowing cigar smoke in, like, the realtor's face. Like I said, insulting the old people who own and who are selling the big castle house. I don't know what you want to call it besides castle house. It's a real place, apparently. And by the way, Preston ends up buying it. We'll talk about that in a minute. And he buys it for way less than it would have been worth in the 90s. It's just not even a believable number. I don't know why he even chose to buy such an extravagant house, considering he could have made his money last a lot longer if he had bought a sensible house. But again, kids are kids. They don't have the kind of thought process we do. So in terms of how a kid would act, maybe this is accurate. But what is not accurate is how much money he spent for the house, which was worth like almost like $1 million back in the 90s. It's worth even more now, but yeah, he would have been broke with just buying this place alone if it was real equivalent money to how the real market was and the real house was going for. But anyway, that's just a little fun tidbit. I had actually read about that in an article, that the place does really exist, which I had not even known before. That's pretty cool. And it's a really cool looking castle house. Very cool. So Preston is trying to buy the castle using his computer, and it just so happens to be the same place Quigley is trying to buy. So it's just a coincidence that they're both trying to buy the same house at the exact same time. I don't know. I like suspending my disbelief, but that is extreme, but it's still fun to think about. So this is one of my favorite parts of the movie as well. So we just came off of one of my first favorite parts, then here's a big favorite part, a second part. So he's on his computer again, dealing with the voice program, because he's trying to disguise his voice, and basically he doesn't want the realtor to know that he's a little kid. So he's got to try to use the computer to make himself sound older. However, he ends up just sounding like a freaking robot and even Quigley, who's there with the realtor and the people, he's like, you're just gonna take an offer from some robot in a box? Like, he's basically calling out that whoever's calling is sounding like a robot and not real. So anyway, he's using his computer, like I said, to type out stuff for the computer to talk for him, but he's typing so loud, and he's talking out loud, so he goes like, I want to buy the house, or whatever, or he gives the offer, and he's like saying it out loud, like, I want to buy the house, like, so his phone is literally near the speaker, but also near him, so there's no way that the realtor and the people on the other end of the line would not be able to hear him talking, him pounding on the keys. Like, they wouldn't be able to just hear the speaker voice or the computer voice. They would totally hear Preston in the background because he's not being stealthy at all. And at one point, his mom's calling to him and he's trying to cover that up, but it's just all very obvious. There's, like I said, there's no way they wouldn't hear it. Also, so they ask him his name after he ends up winning the house and, like, getting to buy it over Quigley. They're like, what's your name? And there's, like, such a long, ridiculous pause, like a 20-second pause. Most people, when they say, what's your name, you don't just hear on the other end someone, like, silence. So what's your name? Like, somebody asks me, like, say this is somebody, what's your name? And I respond, Kelsi. And like a robotic voice that's obviously not real. That is exactly what happens here. So they go, what's your name? 15-20 seconds elapses, and then he thinks for a second. He sees that his computer is a Macintosh, and that's how he gets the idea that he's going to call himself Macintosh. So then he's saying it out loud, and he goes, Macintosh, and then the computer repeats, Macintosh. Anyway, it's ridiculous.
Bingo.
My name is Macintosh.
Then, to top it all off, you don't see him hang up the phone, and he starts, like, going, yeah, after they say sold. He's like, yeah, like, without hanging up the phone. So, like, there's no way. And then he proceeds to throw money around his bedroom, which is, like, the famous scene that all the kids who watched it back in the 90s might remember from, like, the trailer, and then it might be the scene that sticks out to most people who haven't seen it in a long time. So, yeah, he's throwing money around his room, all over the bed. One, he's gonna have to pick all that money up later, because why would you even throw the money around and be so uncareful when you've got brothers who have already stolen from you and you're flipping throwing around $1 million? If they had like a glimpse of that, it'd be gone in a second. Also, his parents would find out. So yeah, his douchebag brothers would already be on the like prowl for more money. So I would have been more careful if I was Preston. I would have been like not throwing it around or anything like that, but he does in this situation. I gotta say, maybe if I was him, I would be so excited and couldn't help myself either that I'd want to do a Scrooge McDuck type of thing anyway, and like, you know, swim in the money, which is what Scrooge McDuck would always do. It's just a thing. But anyway, yeah, he had to clean it up because he had to hide it afterwards. So he had to put it all back in his book bag after spilling it literally everywhere. And again, the amount of money he spreads everywhere can't be $1 million. So like, because it's not even hundreds. So whatevs. I'm not gonna get too analytical about it, but it is great when you think about it as an adult. Nail says, speaking of Scrooge McDuck, imagine how much it would hurt to swim in coins, like a sea of coins. Oh my god, it would hurt. Like, it wouldn't be pleasant at all. Now, dollar bills, which Preston throws around, and he's like kind of like in his bed with it, like doing like money angels instead of snow angels, that would be more pleasant. But then again, wouldn't you feel so dirty? Like, you know, you don't know where these bills have been in terms of the dirt on them. But yeah, that's neither here nor there. But yeah, I never even thought about the coins and how much that might actually be very painful. Alright, so moving forward, luckily, the douchebag brothers did not see the money, and the money was safe in Preston's hands. I say safe because, safe in relative terms, because Preston winds up wasting all the money, not wasting it because he gets badass shit, but anyway, pardon my French, anyway, he ends up getting badass stuff, but he ends up just like spending it all in freaking 6 days. Who spends it in 6 days? Anyway, we'll get to the numbers later, but, alright, so, the next day, Quigley tells Biederman, okay, you're gonna help me find that kid that took my money, and you're gonna help me find him dead or alive. Like, whoa, man. Like, these guys are killing kids now? They're cool with killing kids. Whoa, Disney, whoa. Like, it's one thing you got, like, a 30-year-old kissing a 12-year-old, but now we're talking about child murder as well. So, pretty extreme bad guys. They're no qualms about killing kids, apparently. Whoa. So then, again, it's still the next day. Preston is waiting for his family to leave so he could go check out his new pad that he just bought with, the fake Mr. McIntosh voice. So Preston sees his family leave out the window. He turns to the camera and he literally goes like this. Alright, as you guys know, I don't know if this is like a 90s family movie thing or what, because this happens in 90s family movies quite a lot, if you guys don't know. So, if you think about Home Alone, I can't remember if it's 1 or 2, but one of the Home Alone movies, Kevin McAllister looks straight at the camera and is like, "Da-na-na-na." I think it's actually both of them. When he realizes he's home alone and he has all kinds of freedom, in both movies he looks at the camera, raises his eyebrows. So the same thing here. Preston looks at the camera, literally there is no pretending he's looking somewhere else. He's looking in the camera and it's the only time he breaks the wall and it does the eyebrow thing. So I'm like, what is it with 90s kids movies and raising the eyebrows? But I don't know, I like it though. Alright, so after the raising of the eyebrows, then he goes off and he sneaks and he meets his limo driver, whose name's Henry, by the way. And, they go around and they start buying everything. And this is one of my favorite scenes as well. So as a kid, this shopping spree that Preston goes on seems so epic. Oh my god, the shopping spree. It seemed incredible. I wish I could go on the shopping spree he went on. It just looked amazing. And, I don't know, it just looked really epic. And by the way, at the end of the shopping spree, he ends up getting a huge trash can full of freaking ice cream. We're not talking about, a bucket of ice cream this big. We're talking about a freaking, a trash can size of ice cream. I'm not making it up, guys. It's a trash can size. It's pretty crazy. Why is it so big? I don't know, but I want this ice cream sundae that is as big as a trash can. So anyway, I might make this sundae, because, I've talked about this before, guys. I've got this 90s stream planned that is still part of this series, and it's about one of the countdown lists I'm doing is top 90s family movies food scenes. And spoiler alert, I've told you guys, I'm thinking about making some of the food and having it around me. So some of the pizza maybe from Home Alone. I'm thinking about having a trash can sundae. I don't know, obviously it won't be as big as a real trash can, but maybe like a super big sundae. But how will I really legit eat it though? I don't know. It's kind of it's a little daunting of a task to maybe have ice cream on stream and want to eat all of it, but I'm not going to eat all of it. There'd be no way I could even fit all of it into my stomach. But that pizza, I don't know, like I told you guys, the Hook imagination pie I want to make, where it looks like the Lost Boys pie like we see in the food fight scene in Hook. So all of that food I kind of want to have around me when we're doing my little countdown list of best 90s family movie scenes, because I think it would be a lot of fun. Alright, so then after this whole shopping spree, another day goes by, and it's the next day. So then we see all these moving trucks, all these big trucks coming in and bringing all this merchandise and all this cool stuff to the new house that Preston owns, under the guise that it's all for Mr. McIntosh. So I actually wrote down some of the names of the trucks delivering stuff, some of the companies on these trucks. So some of the trucks we see: Chips Ahoy Cookies, Modern Toys, Coca-Cola, Right Brain Left Brain, The Sharper Image, and Integrated Security, which is the weirdest one of all. But they do talk about security a little later. Preston literally mentions security, specifically security. And we'll talk about that in a second. But how many cookies would you buy if you had $1 million? I mean, he ends up spending all of his money. How many cookies did he buy? Also Coca-Cola. How much cookies and Coke do you need? I understand the toys and the other companies, but it's very odd. So all these guys are moving these boxes in, and they have on their little overalls the word Benkins. And Benkins is actually a real life, I looked it up, it's a legit commercial and residential nationwide moving company. So they were very factual with the moving company. They had a legit name of a moving company represented in the movie, acting like they were moving Preston's new stuff into the house. So I thought that was kind of impressive, that it was very, very authentic. So that was kind of neat. And so after Preston sets everything up, oh my god, we see some of the coolest stuff. And this is the greatest part of the movie. As a kid watching this, you wanted Preston's stuff. You wanted the inflatable sport games he had. He had like this inflatable ring with like big boxing gloves. He had so much cool stuff. Oh my god, like he also had this thing where it was like a Velcro wall where you were in a Velcro suit and you like run and jump on the wall. But to me it always seemed like it would be hard to like get off the wall. But anyway, his limo driver Henry kind of befriends him and they end up having fun and playing all these games together, and you know, a lot of cool stuff around the house. Just a whole montage of him playing around with all of his new stuff that he spent a lot of money on. And the coolest part of the house is there is a water slide that connects the second floor of the house to the pool. So literally, like, Preston's office is the entrance of the pool. The slide. So Preston's in his office, la 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 la. He goes in the slide and he's in his pool. So cool. All right. And I even wrote down the water slide that led from upstairs into the pool is life goals for me. Like I want a water slide in my house that goes out to a pool that like literally comes from inside out. Like that'd be amazing. Oh, it's awesome. All right. So by the way, we talked about the security and how we saw integrated security was one of the trucks that delivered stuff to Preston's house. In fact, Preston tells his dad, "I'm working for Mr. McIntosh now." And yeah, he really cares about security and like I'm helping him with stuff. And so his dad now thinks that Preston has a job with this mysterious guy named Mr. McIntosh. And Preston's not even really clear what he's doing for Mr. McIntosh. Creepy? I don't know. Anyway, no one seems to think it's a red flag. That's neither here nor there. The primary point I want to make here is that Preston literally says, "Oh yeah, security, it's a big deal. It's important." Some security, because after he says that, he's hanging out in the pool, and Shea, the woman from the bank who Preston has a crush on, just pops out of nowhere. Some security, huh? Really great security system. She's just able to walk into a billionaire, well, not a billionaire, obviously it's a millionaire. She's able to walk into just a millionaire's house with, like, nobody stopping her, no gate, no nothing, no alarms, no alerts. Preston's just surprised. She just pops up, and he's moving all this expensive stuff in the neighborhood. He should be more concerned with security. So although he claims he has good security, obviously it's not that good since she just walks in. So she walks in while he's just lounging in the pool, and she says that she wasn't expecting to see Preston there. She came to see Mr. McIntosh. However, she also says she brought Preston a bank account form. So she wasn't expecting to see him there, but she brought the form. Anyway, that doesn't make sense to me, but it's still pretty funny. Then she goes, "Oh, do you have your deposit to open your account?" And he goes, "Yeah, I've got the $200 now." And he goes upstairs, and then he slides down from his office, and he's got the $200, and he gets it all wet, and it's kind of gross because it's all like full of pool water. And he gives it to her. And then I'm just thinking to myself, like, doesn't she think it's weird that a kid is handling a grown man his finances? Because he literally tells her, like, I'm handling some of his finances. Doesn't she think it's strange that a kid is handling, like, a guy's financial stuff? Especially because he just came into the bank a couple of days before, not knowing how much it costs to open up a bank account, and she had to tell him, "Oh, you can't do it with $11, you need $200. And so, like, a couple of days ago, he didn't know anything about, like, banking or finance or whatever. So yeah, it's just all very, like, odd that, of course, she is there to try to get to the bottom of things, so she's not going to raise too many red flags or ask too many questions, but still. I'm just like, why doesn't she think it's more weird? She's kind of accepting this very easily, this whole situation. Also, Preston asks, basically says, "Oh, you want to go to dinner?" And she agrees to dinner with a kid like it's nothing. And then, by the way, so Preston calls it a pre-meeting. Like, "Oh, I'll tell you about Mr. McIntosh. I'll tell you the things you want to know. It's a pre-meeting." And she goes, "Okay, it's a date." She calls it a date. She does. Like, that is the weirdest part, is that she calls it a date. Like, what are you doing? So then Henry, the limo driver that's kind of befriended Preston, he is literally entertaining Preston's date with Shea. He's literally encouraging it. He's, like, making jokes about it. He's talking about Preston's bod and, like, how you need to have a nice bod. And, oh, women love when you take, like, to-go bags and, like, fill your pockets with, like, the buffet food. Anyway, it's all of these big funny jokes. I like Henry a lot. But I do think it's so funny how he keeps emphasizing Preston's bod and how, like, yeah, you're ripped. Yeah, like, it's gonna be great. Like, dude, like, you're older. You should know better. Like, this is a weird situation. But again, this is a movie. It's all for fun. But I do like to, like, call attention to these parts because it's so funny. It makes it even better as an adult to enjoy these parts because it's just so out there. Like, it would never really happen. So then we go back to another montage of Henry and Preston playing with all this cool stuff around Preston's house. Like I said, the giant boxing gloves, the inflatable ring, plus they've got like this human like bowling game. So Preston gets into this cage that's circular, and Henry bowls him into these giant bowling pins. So cool. Also some sumo suits, some like heavy sumo suits, and they literally like wrestle each other in these suits. Oh my god, so much fun. They actually had something similar at my prom fest back in high school when we had like this big prom fest. So I didn't do it. I wish I would have, because it looks so much fun. Like in Blank Check, it looks incredibly fun. Like, oh my god, it looks so much fun. But I never got to play it, alas. Ugh. Anyway, maybe one day there'll be some other party that has some kind of sumo game where you get in these big suits and look ridiculous and fall over because they're heavy. Oh god, it looks so much fun. So, also, there's one toy, though, or one gadget that Preston has that I would never want. And it's this big, circular thing that, like, spins you around. Like, almost like it twists you everywhere. I don't know, I would get, like, really sick in it. Oh, no, I don't want that one. I want almost everything he has except that. Like, no, thanks, I don't need that. I don't need the thing where I'm gonna, like, barf because I'm being spun around too much. But yeah, Preston had so much cool stuff. Who wasn't jealous of him? Megan's saying, oh my god, I was jealous of his stuff. Like, me too. Like, me. And Taker Kid saying he remembers the scene I'm talking about with all the great stuff that they were playing with. And Nail says it's like, this movie, analyzing it, is like now how we think about Home Alone. We used to laugh, and now we question why the Home Alone wet bandits didn't die. Or the sticky bandits, either version of the bandits. They didn't die from all the crazy stuff that happened to them. Like, bricks in the head, no big deal. Like, I'm still alive, I don't even have a concussion. But anyway, it's just so fun to call attention to those things that don't add up. But I still laugh at them. Like, I'm not just calling attention to it, I still enjoy it while seeing it. It doesn't ruin it at all for me. In fact, like I said, this movie, with all this analysis, it still winds up in my top 10 90s kids movies, like, countdown list. It's still there. So nothing that I'm not trying to be critical. I just think it's funny to point these little tidbits out, and it's just so much fun. And also, it's fun to look at these freaking toys that I wanted. I guess you could call them, I don't think you could call them toys, really. I don't know what they are, like big kid toys, because they're not like little kid toys, but they're like outdoor inflatable awesome games. I don't know. Anyway, I wanted almost everything he owned, especially outside of his house. He had a wall of monitors inside that I wasn't that interested in, but the outdoor stuff, heck yeah. Alright, so later that night, Preston goes home after work, and he's trying to tell his parents he needs to go out for the evening, even though he's supposed to be grounded because of his bike getting ruined. By the way, yeah, he was grounded for almost getting run over. Anyway, he was kind of talking back to his parents, so I guess that's why he also got grounded, not just having his bike destroyed. But yeah, so he's supposed to be grounded, but he's convincing his parents, I gotta do, work for Mr. McIntosh, and he's got a date tonight, and I've gotta go over there. But the dad is a hypocrite, because he doesn't want to let Preston go over to Mr. McIntosh's, even after he says it's for his job. But he lets Preston's brothers do whatever the hell they want, because they have their own business. So supposedly, I'm saying supposedly have their own business, because like I said earlier, we never find out what Hand and Foot is. They're never at home, like, they're never using the computer the dad got him. So what are they doing? I don't know what is going on, but obviously they're pretending they have a business, but they really don't, and they're using Preston's life savings to, like, do whatever they want, which is all very uncool of the brothers. Very uncool. They get theirs at the end, and everything, kind of turns good at the end. But anyway, to go back to it, the dad's kind of being hypocritical. He lets the brothers do whatever they want, but not Preston. But when Preston says, okay, well, I was going to show Mr. McIntosh your prospectus, your plan, your financial investment idea. And the dad's like, oh, really? Okay, you can go. So it's not until basically Preston lies and bribes about showing this rich guy his dad's idea that the dad lets him go. That's just over the top ridiculous, and it basically cements my statement about how Preston's family is the worst. So I'm sorry, Preston's family, but you're the worst. And I ain't taking it back. Although they do kind of redeem themselves in the end, but whatevs. Alright, and this is another one of my favorite parts of the movie. So he goes, after he's allowed to leave, he is wearing this blue ridiculous suit. Oh my god, I said it. This blue suit, and he puts on these sunglasses, and he walks away epically, and he's like, later, toads. It's like such a 90s thing to say. Such a 90s kids thing to say. Later, toads. So, like, I quote that all the time. Later, toads. Not like on stream or anything, but like in my real life, I used to say that all the time. And I have a video of it.
Later, toads. Later, toads.
Later, toads. Nails likes my impressions. Yeah, it's always my favorite thing to do is like little terrible impressions. It's always so fun. I try to make it accurate, but it never is, unfortunately. But I guess that makes it better for you guys that the impressions are so off and not accurate at all. But yeah, that has got to be one of my favorite 90s kids movie quotes. Of course, I have a ton of Home Alone quotes that I like and probably would put over the later Toads, but from this movie specifically, Juice is one that I like to say with the close-up mouth. You ought to be in Scoo, and later Toads. Those are the three best quotes I think from this movie. So when Preston is walking off, no one wonders why he's calling them toads, or how he got a gig with a millionaire, or what he even does for the guy. All very strange. Like, the family just watches him walk off. They don't, ask more questions. They don't say, let us go with you. And they don't say, hey, what the hell? Why are you calling us toads? What is going on with you? You're acting weird. Why are you being so strange? Why are you literally doing an epic walk off with, glasses like you're somebody fancy? Anyway, they don't ask any of that. But that's why I think later Toads is even better than when you just watch it and take it face value. It's great, but then when you start thinking about aren't they wondering why he just said later Toads and they're still letting them leave? I don't know. It's pretty awesome. All right, so back to the date. So this is the part that is so weird. So the date, they're first there at a fancy restaurant, as I said, and he's asking Shea some questions, talking to her, but I'm thinking to myself, doesn't she think it's odd that Macintosh is getting jewelry for someone he's never met? Because Preston gives her a thing of jewelry, but he says, oh, it's from Mr. Macintosh. To me, I'd be like, well, I know you, Preston, but I don't know Mr. Macintosh. So why is Macintosh, whom I've never met, whom I've never even been able to talk to, why is he getting me jewelry? And it goes a step further because she's talking about how she's never met Macintosh to Preston. And then Preston says, yeah, but he's been thinking about you a lot lately. So Preston admits, yes, you don't know him, you've never met him, but he's been thinking about you a lot lately. But that doesn't make sense to answer her question. Yes, he doesn't know you, but he's been thinking about you a lot. How? They've never met, like I said. What the heck? What does he mean? This doesn't make any sense. So it's your mind explodes when you try to think about it. You can't connect the dots. And you just can't fathom what's going on. Also, so Preston starts asking her questions what's the shortest guy you've ever dated? And these questions are so obviously from Preston, but he's saying they're from Mr. Macintosh. And to me, at that point, I know she's thinking, oh, these are really his questions. But at the same time, doesn't she then start to suspect, if these are his questions for me, then is anything he's saying that Macintosh is or is like or has said, is any of that true? So to me, I'd be questioning Preston more and his authenticity more, because I know she could probably tell that they're Preston's questions, and she's just thinking it's cute that he's asking and has a little crush on her, and I'm sure she's thinking it's all harmless, blah, 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 in her head, trying to, think of what the character might be thinking, all of that stuff. But at the same time, to me, then Preston's credibility is, out the window. Why are you trying to find out legit information, for a criminal investigation from a kid who's obviously not reliable? You can't trust the thing he says. Anyway, that's another story for another day. We could analyze this to hell. All right. So then they leave the restaurant because Preston falls out of his chair. It's a whole big story. Not really. It's just crazy things ensue. He falls out of his chair. He's not used to being at fancy restaurants. He asked her, do you like burgers? She goes, I love burgers. And she's being all flirty, which is strange because he's a kid. Again, it's strange. So they go to a park, an outdoor area, and they're eating. And she goes, what's so special about this place anyway? He's like, come with me, I'll show you. So they're in the middle of this really cool fountain, which basically all these streams of water come up at different times. And so they're trying to avoid the water, chasing the water, but eventually they both get soaked. And here's a cool thing, people always find little things in movies, editing mistakes. This is one of the editing mistakes I noticed in the movie. So in one shot they're soaked, in the next shot they're dry and they're still running around, and in another shot, the third shot, they're soaked again. So if you look close, you could clearly tell the editing is out of sequence there. It's kind of like a flub. It's okay. I think it's still a really fun scene, but also weird because they're so intimate, they're hugging and she's lifting him up, and it's really strange. And as an adult, you get kind of uncomfortable because it's not supposed to be like that between people of different ages that are one's a kid. It's not supposed to be like that. So, and then it goes further, and she acts so weird going home in the limo. They're drenched in the limo, And she keeps talking about what a wonderful time, a great time she had. She hasn't had this much fun since she was a kid. Yeah, because you're hanging out with the kid. So, like, of course you're going to do kid-like, childlike, wondrous, like, things, fun, kind of carefree things. When you're with a kid, you're going to do things that you haven't done since you were a kid yourself. So, of course, when she says that, it's like, yeah, it's kind of self-explanatory, but whatevs. And again, she ends up getting out the car. She almost looks like she's gonna kiss him, but she shakes his hand. But then she looks back lovingly and like longingly. And that's just my observation, kind of my take on her look. Maybe it's not really supposed to be lovingly, but it looks like it. Like, it looks like there was more going on there in the car ride. We're not gonna go into it. Alright, so then fast forward a little bit later. Basically, I'll give you a rundown of a few things happening. So Preston ends up hiring a party planner for Mr. McIntosh's birthday, which just so happens to be like the same day as Preston's real birthday, so they happen to have the same birthday. So he hires this uptight party planner who essentially doesn't care about what Mr. McIntosh wants. She just wants to use his money. She ends up, planning this whole big bash. Meanwhile, he hasn't heard from Shea. His brothers are saying, oh, she's a gold digger. You get yourself a girlfriend, but she just wants Mr. McIntosh's money. He's having a tough time. Henry's busy. He has no one to play with. So essentially, he's like looking around his house and he's like kind of losing interest in everything. Okay, you just spent like $1 million on all your stuff. And you're telling me you're already bored with everything you own? What the hell is wrong with like kids of that day? Like, you were sick of this stuff in a week? He was bored already. So anyway, he ends up going to the park, and the bad guys are at the park at the exact same time. Come on. No way. Anyway, a chase scene ensues at the park because they're looking for the kid. The Preston guy, they know the kid stole the money, or like accidentally got the money. So they're looking for him, and they find him in the park, and a big chase scene happens in a car. So don't you think people in the park would notice a strange car speeding, chasing after a kid on a bike, and somebody would call the police? However, that doesn't happen. Even though they crash over things, people are clearly in the background of shots, and nobody's saying anything like, oh, this is terrible, they're chasing a kid, like, what's wrong? Nothing is, like, kind of called out. It's insane. And also, by the way, so Quigley, the head bad guy, the bank robber guy, says, your butt is mine, kid, as he's chasing him in the car. And then Juice says, I've been wanting this little punk. And then Quig says, I own you, kid. Like, man, they're really hardcore while chasing Preston. Like, they're just saying really terrible things. And again, backing up to the scene with Shea kind of being inappropriate with Preston. As a kid, like, I didn't really think about it being wrong. It didn't, like Taker Kid saying, that scene didn't cross my mind as a kid as creepy. But yeah, like, now, of course, it's a different perspective. But as a kid, it didn't bother us. So yeah, it's like, now we're, like, kind of overanalyzing it. But, I mean, why did Disney choose to do the whole, like, really older, really younger thing? I just don't think it was a wise idea for a company to do that. But yeah, as a kid, I didn't really, like, kind of pay attention to how bad it was. That's why people who rewatch it say, oh my god, it, like, blew my mind, it kind of ruined my childhood. I wouldn't go that far. I think those people are extreme who say that. Like, you can look past it, even though it is kind of strange. Alright, so, of course, Quigley tells Juice, do not blow chunks in my car, because Juice has been chasing the kid around on foot, while Quigley chases him in the car. Juice is exhausted and is about to throw up. And so, of course, I would say, like, I think that Juice throwing up in the car is second to trying to get their money back. Like, they're more worried about the car than the money. Come on, Quigley. Quigs, get it together. That's my nickname for him. Come on, Quigs, get it together. Anyway, it's so dumb. Quigs. Who does that? Who calls, like, a character Quigs? Alright, so, by the way, so, meanwhile, I told you guys about the party for Mr. McIntosh and that dumb party planner. Preston could have put the kibosh on this entire lame party idea, especially when he starts seeing all the lame decorations. His house was already ready for an awesome party, with all the cool, like, outdoor activities, with the big boxing ring, with the Velcro wall, with, like, he even had, like, a race car, like, go-kart track. Like, a big go-kart track. His place was ready for a party. He didn't have to hire a party planner, and once he saw what the party planner was doing, he could have said, hey, no, I don't want any of this. Anyway, he just lets her set up this terrible decoration and use up his own money, aka Mr. McIntosh's money. Why? Just tell her to buzz off, but he doesn't. Anyway, that's a huge waste of his money. And also, by the way, how can the party planner plan a party and never talk to the person whose party it's for? She literally just assumes she knows what he wants. Whatevs. I guess she thinks she's just, like, that high class of a party planner. Alright, so basically fast forward to Mr. McIntosh's birthday party. Preston's really feeling down. He's been chased by the bad guys. He's had some close calls. All this crazy stuff has happened to him. It's really not been a good day at all. And on top of it all, Henry disappears. He can't find Henry. He can't find Shea. And, the things his brother said are echoing in his head that she just wants Mr. McIntosh's money. He's also worried that he hardly has any money left. So the party planner comes up to him. Mr. McIntosh owes me $100,000. Just go tell him, whatever. And so Preston goes up to his office to see how much money he has to try to pay the party planner. Meanwhile, we see on his computer screen, by the way, it's almost like he's got like stock or trading software on his computer. Like a kid would be that high tech. I don't know. Anyway, on his computer it says Tech 500 volume 17,880,230. What is that? And then it says insider trading volume, and then there's more random numbers. So it sure looks like some kind of stock numbers. Why would Preston have that in his office? Also, I don't know how he has all this intricate finance software on his computer and how his office is set up. This is why he used up all of his money, obviously, so easily, because he gets all this software, all this other stuff. By the way, he got a set of Britannia encyclopedias. What kid buys a set of encyclopedias? They were probably really expensive, by the way. But yeah, you could see in like the corner of the frame when he's in his office, the whole set of encyclopedias. Pretty extensive of a purchase, I gotta say, for a kid. So finally, we see on the computer screen, he realizes he's out of money. His computer screen says he has spent $999,667.83 in 6 days. And then it says he's got about $333 left. And this is all up on the screen. Then Preston's dad comes in and he thinks he's talking to Mr. McIntosh because Preston's back is turned and all the dad can see is the chair. And he basically says, lately money has become so important to Preston. I hope you could send him home early. It's his birthday today. I guess he's been so obsessed with money lately. I guess that's my fault. Yeah, bitch! You treated him terribly compared to, his brothers because he didn't have a job and they did. What are you... you're the one who made him worry about money. He's a kid. Anyway, the dad's clearly feeling bad. So I feel bad for the dad. He's clearly feeling very bad about it. So then, Shea is looking for Mr. McIntosh and she ends up running away from the party in heels and a dress. That's not suspicious at all. And she's supposed to be undercover. Whatevs. Also, Quig later, the party dissipates because Preston says, oh, Mr. McIntosh doesn't have the money to pay you to the party planner. The party planner is like, Mr. McIntosh is a fraud. And they all leave and they take their presents back. It's all very absurd and over the top. But then Quigley goes to Mr. McIntosh's house, finds out that Preston's there from another kid. And he goes, happy birthday! I'm here to blow out your candles. There could be nothing that's more crazy than that. So 90s. I'm here to blow out your candles. And then he bends a key in the door. Is it really that easy to bend a key? But anyway, no, I don't think so. So then the whole chase ensues with Biederman, Quigley, and Juice, and Preston. So basically at one point they're all upstairs. Preston goes and escapes through the slide, goes out to the pool. They push Juice to try to go get after him down the slide, and then Quigley and Biederman try to run downstairs. So they try to run on foot. Meanwhile, they push Juice out through the pool to try to get to Preston. Whoever gets there first, whatever, they try to corner him. It's weird, though, because Biederman and Quigley somehow arrive at the pool at the same time Juice is coming out of the slide. That would never happen. That's Juice probably would take 10 seconds, 20, 30 at most to get down out of the slide. Whereas the people would take a lot longer than that to basically run down a second story to a first story and outside of a big ass house. Pardon my French. I'm all passionate about this analysis. So there's no way that they would meet him at the bottom at the same time. That just wouldn't mathematically be correct. But it's still fun and funny to think about. So then, Biederman gets trapped in this virtual reality chair, and he's got these goggles that Preston puts over his head to try to disorient him, and there's all these monkey sounds, and Biederman, is all confused. He could literally just lift this helmet up, but, he can't, so he's all, kind of trapped. Then Biederman, kind of stumbles out, and he's out of commission. So basically, Preston takes care of Biederman. He's off the side. He can't really do anything to hurt him. Then Juice is outside looking for Preston, and meanwhile, Preston's inside, and he can see him on his monitors, and he starts shooting baseballs at him virtually through, a baseball shooting machine. And this is, one of my favorite parts as well. So Juice is outside, and he's trying to, get out of the way of these baseballs, these electronic baseballs being shot at him virtually. And he's like, oh, hey, ho, hey. Like, that's literally what he says out loud when he's trying to avoid the baseballs. Like, that's not a very good way to avoid the baseballs. Like, why don't you just, like, duck? Why are you saying, hey, ho? No one's listening. Like, who are you saying that to? Like, it just makes me laugh. But I also just love the act of him going, hey, ho. It makes me laugh every time. So, it's a lot of fun, but, it's a good time. That's like literally probably my top 5 scenes in the movie is the hey ho with Juice, like hey ho, and then so Preston's inside getting super excited and he's like yeah. Preston's like all very excited that he's hitting Juice and like getting him, and so he goes, take that, a screwball, and then one ball hits him like, you know, in the nuts. And so when Juice gets in the nuts, he like drops to his knees. It's like, oh, and then of course Preston is like, oh, screwball, that had to hurt. Like, actually he said, oh, that must have hurt. Like, anyway, it's like, it's all very dramatic and over the top, but I love it. It's like one of my favorite scenes. And again, like, Preston's not even being stealthy. He's still trying to hide from Quigley, yet he's like in this room shooting the balls off at Juice, and he's making a lot of noise and like yelling. Like I said, he's saying like, oh, that must have hurt really loud, like Quigley could be around the corner, and he is around the corner, and he starts chasing him. Preston goes outside, he's trying to hide under tables and stuff, and somehow in like a matter of seconds, Preston goes from under the table to like up in a tree and all this other stuff. Anyway, all of my other observations are kind of vague near the end of the movie. But basically, how the hell did Preston have time to get into his boxing gloves, climb, like, and rig a bungee, and the tree propel down? Like, all this stuff is happening seconds after he's hiding under tables. So, I don't know. Anyway, a lot of things progress. What ends up happening is, like, the FBI come, and they think that Quigley is Mr. McIntosh. And at first, Quigley wants to claim that he's Mr. McIntosh so he could have his money back. But basically, he ends up going to jail because they think Mr. McIntosh embezzled money, because the money Biederman had given Preston in the beginning was actually marked by the FBI. Because again, Shea is undercover this whole time. She's part of the FBI. And so they're thinking Mr. McIntosh is the embezzler. They're not even like wondering who this guy is that like broke out of jail. I guess like that's not on their radar. Anyway, there's kind of a few loose ends. But Shea winds up at the very end saying, oh, thank you, Preston. Sorry your boss ends up being a bad guy, and what are you gonna do now? And they promise to go on a date in 6 years, and she gives him a kiss. The kiss I showed you guys at the beginning. So that's the one thing we gotta get out of the way, is the kiss. Like I said, whatever, just put that aside. It's a little gross, but in terms of it's not supposed to happen. But it does happen, and the good thing is that at the end, he does make up with his family. They apologize to him. Sorry we've been so harsh on you. They sing him happy birthday. And, you know, I think the whole moral of the story is that money can't get you happiness. So it's a good moral of the story in the end, although it's kind of got a roundabout way of getting there. But I think it's, I don't know, kind of a nice message when it's all said and done. Except the very last thing is he's blowing out his birthday candles and he makes a wish, and then he looks at Shea's picture. I think he looks at her picture. I can't remember, even though I just watched it. But basically he's wishing for Shea to be his girlfriend in the future, which is a little like weird way to end the movie. But anyway, the movie has a happy ending. Preston's okay. The bad guys get locked up, and I don't know. But the money's gone. The money is spent, which is so crazy that he spent all this money in 6 days. I don't think I could if I tried. Now, I know $1 million doesn't really go as long as you think it does, but still. I just think that's very quick. Oh my gosh, and the actor who played Preston, Brian, says he's gonna watch in a little bit because our friend Megan, who's in the chat right now, is Megpie. She is friends with him, which is really cool. It's like a small world and stuff. I don't know. It's crazy how the world is as small as it is. But if he does watch this, I just want him to know I love this movie. I'm not like criticizing it or making fun of it. I just think it's fun to analyze it from like an adult perspective, and then remember how you used to think of it as a kid, and then like the mixing of the two, that we could still enjoy it, but still also kind of like look at it with like a critical, like harsh, like adult eye and be like, oh, that really doesn't make sense, but I still like it. I actually love it. Like I said, it's in my top 10, as I've said many times on this whole stream. So that's so cool that he might check this out later. Yay! Anybody who wants to be familiar with like movies that most 90s kids have seen should watch this film. I still think it holds a good place for most 90s kids, even though, you know, some of the things that happened might not have held up or might not hold up to today. It's okay. It's still, if you put it, like, kind of just take it at face value, I think you can still enjoy it. But yeah, that's my review. I'm not going to give it a rating because it's kind of hard to gauge the rating, like, you know, measure the nostalgia against, like, some of the things that are controversial. It's like, how can I rate it? But I just, basically, like I said, me put it in the top 10 kind of shows you that I still favor it quite highly. And again, I kind of put it on my list of top 10s because I quote it so much, and I quoted it for years growing up. I quoted it as like a preteen, a teen. There's just parts in the movie that like really make me laugh, and I just look at it with fondness, like I said. And there's like new stuff that I discover each time I watch that is like, that's kind of funny. Like, I know you ought to be in Scoo. I like didn't laugh at that as a kid, but I laughed at it like as a teenager. Because going back and rewatching it with friends, that's like the things we would like hone in on weren't really like great things. They weren't like huge things, like big scenes, but they were just these little lines that like to us were funny. So I think, I don't know, it's got like all kinds of good stuff. Dre says money is the root of all evil, and it doesn't make you happy, which is kind of like the lesson of this movie when it gets down to it, because he had $1 million and he lost it like that, and really what was more important was his relationship with his family, which was kind of bettered at the end. So it all had like a full circle type of message. I will say that's it for my review of Blank Check. I want to thank you guys for spending a really long stream with me today. I'm sorry it was so long, but I had a lot of notes, and I'm glad you guys kind of gave in to me and let me like rant on and on about it, and let me gush about some of the funny parts and be critical about some of the other parts that I was just focusing on and like really kind of analyzing to a T and stuff. I really had a fun time. Thank you guys so much. And again, you know, I've got to end with a 90s catchphrase, my ringtone alert. Keep the change, you filthy animals. Till next time.